Hey everyone, and today we're talking about the history of heroin. So, a while ago, I heard this little fact about heroin and how it was marketed as a non-addictive form of morphine. And I thought that was really interesting, and so I decided I want to learn more about the history of heroin. I do not do drugs. Don't do drugs, do hugs. Do hugs, not drugs. Yeah. But I thought it was very interesting, and so I decided to make a video about it, because if I find it interesting, chances are at least somebody out there will too. Okay, so now let's get into it. The history of heroin. Heroin is obviously not a new drug that just showed up in the late 1960s, nor are its negative effects unique to the modern era. Heroin was synthesized from morphine in 1874 by an English chemist named Charles Romilly Alder Wright. It's a long name, quite a mouthful. But it was not produced commercially until 1898 by the Bayer Pharmaceutical Company. In August 1897, Felix Hoffmann, a German chemist who worked for the Bayer Pharmaceutical Company, synthesized heroin in an attempt to convert morphine into codeine. This new drug was twice as potent as morphine. It was presented to doctors as a cough suppressant and analgesic. I don't even pronounce that word. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that word. For agonizingly painful respiratory illnesses. It soon became popular and was used for a variety of medical applications, including respiratory infections, which I mentioned earlier, childbirth, ouch, serious injuries, and control of certain mental disorders, which, according to my mom, makes mental illness way worse than it already was. Like, drugs will mess up your brain, obviously. The selling point in the marketing and stuff was for it to be a non-addictive version of morphine, which I mentioned already. The U.S. had at least two major heroin epidemics. The first one began after World War II, and the second began in the late 1960s. During the second epidemic, heroin use was prevalent among enlisted men in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. These men were about 18 to 20 years old and were not allowed to buy liquor on the base, which might have been an added incentive to obtain heroin and use heroin. Outside of the U.S., pharmaceutical-grade heroin is still produced for limited therapeutic use. It is occasionally prescribed for severe pain in countries such as the United Kingdom. So, that's a brief history on heroin. So yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, click that little bell icon so you get notified every time that I upload a new video, and I'll see ya.